Someone says, can we see your broomstick? I do have a broomstick, actually. I keep it by the front door.
Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Anyway, like I said, today's show is being called The Secrets of Witchcraft, and this is a live Q&A discussion happening on the Revolution Radio chat room as well as on Facebook Live. If you are watching live on Facebook, you're more than welcome to post a question in the comments. As well, if you are on Revolution Radio, Treva is there, and she will make sure to nudge me and let me know if there are any questions. And now I lost the stream again. There we go. Right on. Okay. So anyway, I have received some questions from all of you over the last few days. So I'm going to get to those first as I keep an eye out for what's going on online. But let me start off by saying that for me, I'm going to be answering these questions to the best of my ability from my own experience, from the way that I have been practicing over the last, when did I start? 92, 91, so 25 years or more. I don't do the math very quickly in my head, so you figure it out. I've been practicing since about 1990. Personally, I do have a very small personal coven, or we call ourselves a grove here locally. It's my private group that I participate with. I am the high priest of that group. I am the teacher of Earth Spirit Roanoke, where we hold classes and hold sabbats and all that kind of stuff. But you might notice something about me, and I want to make this, I guess this is where I want to start off this discussion, is that while I align with the practice of witchcraft, with the practice of paganism, it's not my identity. It's one piece of my identity. So you'll notice that a lot of my posts will talk about metaphysical things, we'll talk about activist things, we'll talk about indigenous shamanism, LGBT issues, paganism, everything. I'm not just a witch, so I don't just push that out there all the time. I am very open about it. I don't, but it's not like I'm going to label myself and put it on my forehead. Anyway, with that being said, I do have many, many years of experience. I've been initiated into multiple groups. I've been studying, several decades now. Gosh, I'm showing my age. Anyway, so I figured this would be a great opportunity for you to ask me any questions you might have if you're just starting off on the path, or if you have any misconceptions about what it is, what witchcraft really is. And I want to start off by saying that I was a private pagan, for lack of a better term, for many years. And when I started getting involved in this work publicly back in 2005, 2006, it was my intention to, well, you see it on my website, to reveal, the truths within ourselves and outside of ourselves. And a part of that has to do with metaphysical and or occult and or spiritual knowledge that I felt was being hoarded by these secretive groups, these secret societies, by those who just, were hoarding information. And I feel this information is very important for everyone to be able to access. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe in the path of initiation of preparing the student to receive the information. I can give you information. If you're not ready to receive it or use it correctly, it could be very detrimental to your own personal growth and your own personal path. So I'm going to start off with this wonderful question, which is a very common question. And that is witchcraft occult? And I have to giggle. Speaking, utilizing, language definition, occult by definition, and actually I have it here. A cult is generally taken as a gathering of people who owe blind allegiance to one charismatic leader who ostensibly represents truth. There are no leaders in witchcraft or Wicca or paganism. I mean, yes, you'll have your high priest within your group. Yes, you'll have your shaman in your village. There are some people who've created, witches' councils and whatnot regionally. But as far as like a pope or a savior, um, there is no Allah, there is no Buddha, there is no Christ. There is nature. And that, for me, that is what witchcraft really is. It's about nature. I like to call it earth spirituality. And that's why I name my group here in Roanoke Earth Spirit Roanoke. But, so let me define a little bit more about what that term witchcraft is. Now, actually, I do have a question later on that's going to get into that, and I don't want to get out get out of order. Anyway, um, actually, okay, I'll start with that. We have the different. What is the difference between witchcraft and paganism? Um, the best way to answer this, and I can actually go in and throw in shamanism and Wicca in there too, is that all Wiccans are witches, but not all witches are Wiccans. All witches are pagans, but not all pagans are witches. All shamans are pagan, but not all pagans are shaman. Paganism literally means those from the hearth or from the heath. I forgot what the word. It's pagani, the heathen, those from the heath, those that were country dwellers, those who follow folk religion. In the modern world, any religion that is not of the big three Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, or Muslim or Islam, anyone outside of that, in by modern terms, is considered pagan. So indigenous spirituality is considered pagan. Buddhism, Hindu, basically most, if not all, religion that are not monotheistic, the modern monotheistic Abrahamic religion, are considered pagan. So yes, shamans are pagans, witches are pagans, Wiccans are pagans, but not all witches are Wiccans, and I'll get into that a little bit more. Um, so we have another question: do witches have a Bible? No. A Bible is, the definition of a Bible is basically the words, a sacred word of God, and it doesn't matter what religion it's in. It's usually the sacred teachings of that particular religion. There is no witch's Bible. There are people who have written and published books called witches' Bibles, but that is their own interpretation. If anything, I believe the witches' Bible that I have looked at, it's kind of just like a guideline, and that's the whole idea of witchcraft. It's very personal. Witches have what's called a book of shadows. You are basically writing your own Bible, for lack of a better term. When you are learning, when you're being taught a particular events or classes, you write down your notes. That goes into your book of shadows. If you're doing rituals, you're being taught a ritual. Those rituals are put into your book of shadows. Your spells, your healing techniques, just everything. You're writing your own book. My original book of shadows was, and I'm so sad that I've lost it. Actually, I know where it is. I need to get it shipped up to me. Was literally the size of a South Florida phone book. It was about that thick, and that was about 15 years of just writing. And actually, my book of one was in that particular book of shadows. Oh, so we lost someone. Did we lose Revolution Radio? Yes, we lost Revolution Radio. Okay, guys, so this is strictly going on Facebook only now. They are doing some work on Revolution Radio, so I don't know if you're listening or if you can hear me. They're doing some work on Revolution Radio. It will be down for about 30 minutes, and hopefully it'll be back up soon. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, somebody asked, what books do I recommend? Let me say that my favorite book, especially if you're just starting out, is written by Scott Cunningham. It's called Wicca for the Solitary Practitioner. I believe it's a great basis. It's a great fundamental book to get your foundation started. Um, Other great books, depending on what you're drawn to, because witchcraft and Wicca and paganism is really about following your spirit and following your heart. But if you're drawn to more traditional or learning the structure of ritual and spells, I highly recommend Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft. It's a great book. It's got little tests after every chapter, so you can read it and you answer the questions, and you're kind of building your book of shadows with that. But again, follow your heart. Go with what you feel you're being called to do. If you like a particular book, some people like crystals and herbs or something more. You can't. How do I say this? As you get on the path, you're going to be drawn to one particular aspect of witchcraft, whether it be magic and spells, whether it be herbs, whether it be crystals, whether it be meditation and consciousness, which is kind of my deal. A lot of people get drawn into a particular aspect of it, a sub path, for lack of a better term. But there are many great books out there. My only complaint is that most of the books out there are all Wicca 101. They're just revised, regurgitated Wicca 101 books. So what I would recommend is that you read books about covens. There's a great book called Covencraft. Read about covens, read about rituals, read about practicing, alone. And then I would highly recommend to start reading sacred texts from other religions. I've read the Tao Te Ching, the Bhagavad Gita, the teachings of Buddha. I've read a little bit of the Quran. Of course, I've read the Bible many times. Find the common thread. Find the common thread. There is one common thread within all religion, and spirit is in that. So I believe that as we follow our spirit, our pagan or witchcraft path will grow through following your spirit. And someone says, can we see your broomstick? I do have a broomstick, actually. I keep it by the front door. And that's a great topic to bring up, because that's one of the questions that I was already asked. Do witches fly on brooms? No. No. The myth of the witch and the broom comes from ancient ceremonies and rituals. Again, don't forget that the old Pagani people, the folk religion people in the days of yore, were agriculturally based. And the broom, people would do ritual out in the fields, let's say growing corn or wheat, and they would put the broom between their legs and they would leap to show the corn how high to grow, to show the crops how high to grow. As well, jumping over the broom is a very common tradition with Northern European pagan people or pagan religions. And so, outsiders that saw this, they thought that, they were like, oh, these people are flying on brooms. No, they're not. Witches do not fly on brooms. The closest thing that could be real, there's some historical fact about witches utilizing hallucinogenics and rubbing it on the broom handle, and perhaps doing nude ritual, and I believe the flying ointment consisted of belladonna, opium, and other hallucinogenics. So if you touch your mucous membranes between your legs, yeah, you're going to feel like you're flying. But that hasn't really been proven. So it's kind of just here nor there. But you can do some research on it and really find out what the truth is about witchcraft. Um, on my neck, I like this. Oh shoot! I hate when it goes away. It says on my neck I'm wearing a crescent moon. Actually, yeah, on your neck is a cross and an Islam half moon. Thank you for bringing that up. Nobody owns symbols. Nobody owns symbols. The crescent moon. If you look very closely, well, I'm going to try to get real close here. If you look at this part, there is a symbol of the triple goddess. It's a full moon with two crescent moons on either side. Many, many witches, most witches, I will say, that I know, we have an affinity toward the divine feminine, toward the goddess. And the goddess is represented through the moon and the cycles of the moon. As a matter of fact, a witch's esbat, or our ceremony, our monthly ritual, is usually done on the full moon. So this is a very pagan symbol to me. This is an ankh, and it's an Egyptian ankh. It represents reincarnation. It represents the union of male and female, the sacred union. So that brings me into symbolism. I didn't wear my pentagram today because I wear it all the time, but one of the questions that was asked that somebody sent me, where is it? It was about the pentagram. Oh, why do you wear a satanic symbol if you don't worship Satan? And again, I have to giggle because it's just not knowing. The pentagram, first of all, is a mathematical symbol. That going beyond that, let me just say that the pentagram to us represents a symbol of earth, or the elements of earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. Now, when the pentagram is pointing up, it's pointing in the direction of spirit. So you'll notice that Satanists usually have it pointed down. And like the swastika, which I'll get into in just a minute, the pentagram itself, when it's pointing up, represents spirit. When it's pointing down, it represents the material plane. So Satanists have borrowed it, or taken it, for lack of a better term, to represent, earthly pleasures and whatnot. And that's all fine and dandy, well, harm none, do what you will, as far as I'm concerned. But you must also understand is that the pentagram was not just a pagan symbol. The pentagram has been around for thousands of years, from the Egyptians to the Hindus to, I believe it was the Amish used it. They put it on the side of barns as a hex sign to keep away any negativity or keep away any bad luck. So symbols, and this goes back into my general observation of symbols in the crescent moon and the ankh, the symbols can represent one thing to one community within our limited understanding, and something completely different to another community. I believe it's is it Morocco? On their sign, on their flag, the country's flag is a pentagram. I believe it's Morocco. It's a Middle Eastern country. So it's very different. Symbols mean different things to different people, but I would always say, and I always say this about anything, research it for yourself. Research it for yourself. Good example, the swastika. The swastika has been around for, 6,000 years. And again, that represented the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, the four directions. And Hitler took it, put it on its side, and perverted it, and now it means something completely different. So again, it's just not understanding what these symbols really mean. So it's important that we must research these so-called. Actually, always question your beliefs. I'm constantly questioning my beliefs. One of the questions I received also was, do witches cast spells? So, what is a spell? One of my teachers back in the 90s, Reverend Rel Davis, thank you, Rel. He's passed on, but thank you for all the work that you did for our community in South Florida. He used to say that prayers were spells. It's as simple as a prayer can be a spell. And what what um, what a spell is something that we call in today's world an intention. You know, a lot of us in the spiritual world use the term intention, creating an intention. I like to say that a prayer is asking the universe for something. Meditation is listening to the universe, and a spell is telling the universe what you want, intending it, bringing something into fruition. So, do witches, all witches cast spells? No. Quite honestly, I am very weary of doing spells, especially for personal gain. And no, I don't. I don't have a thing about you can't have personal. Yeah, I watch Charmed also. There's nothing wrong with personal gain spells. You just have to be very careful that it's not going to harm you or harm another person. And what are the implications going to be? I'm very particular if I'm doing a spell for myself that I will do a reading. I'll do a spread, a tarot spread, to see what the outcome is going to be and what repercussions might happen. I've had spells that work out beautifully, and I've had spells that worked out great at first and then snowballed into something completely horrific. So it's do witches cast spells? Some do, some don't. A good witch will be very weary of casting a spell, will do the research, and really explore what the possibilities could be if they were to do a spell. Okay, so someone just asked me, do I practice witchcraft? And I like the way that it's separated. So, the craft of the wise. What does witchcraft mean? Witchcraft means the craft of the wise. Um, with that being said, we have to also understand that not all witches call themselves witches. Not all those who call themselves witches actually practice witchcraft. And I'm going to get into that a little bit because it's kind of my pet peeve, and I'll get into that after the commercial, because we are coming up. We are coming up on the commercial break. But before we do that, I think about 2 more minutes here. I just want to clarify something here, and this is another great question that people have asked: do witches worship the devil? In order to worship the construct or the entity that is called the devil, you have to fall into that umbrella of those religions that believe in the devil. How can I worship, oh, I don't know, the flying spaghetti monster if I don't believe in the flying spaghetti monster? You understand what I'm saying? Witches, most pagans, most witches do not believe in the construct of the devil. The devil itself was a Middle Eastern construct, which was then borrowed and brought into Christianity maybe just 1,000 years ago. It's not. It's a fairly new idea that there's this one being that's evil and he has horns and whatnot. And quite honestly, the image that we see as the devil with the horns and the hooves and the cloven hooves, that was borrowed from the god Pan Cernunnos, the nature gods. So when the church was trying to convert pagans into Christians, during when they were murdering, slaughtering all these folk religious people that lived in the villages and whatnot, and forcing them to convert to Christianity, what they would do in their propaganda would say, well, the devil has horns. Look, they're worshiping the devil.